This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW, flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of Masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 764, part 2, entitled Hypergamy versus FIPpery, Instinct versus Ideology. Continuing straight on. Masculists have a political program to wipe out fluffies, to effectively exterminate them by totally ignoring them, thus forcing them to rot on the shelf, dying slow, lonely, miserable, manless deaths, by being totally ignored by men, masculisted men, hence are forced into being sexless, loveless, babyless, and spat at, utterly rejected both socially and sexually. Men have the power to do this to women, since men are FIPPs, financially independent persons, and men have the sperm needed to make a woman pregnant. So if millions of men choose to ignore women, brackets, which is the case today in the US, for example, where 2/3 of young men refuse to even date young women, claiming that young women are undateable due to being too poisoned by feminism, according to a recent 2022 Pew PW Research Center poll, close brackets, then millions of women are going to be manless and miserable, which is the case today, as evidenced by the fact that there are thousands of TikToks and YouTube shorts of young women in their 20s and 30s who are in tears, complaining miserably how they can't find a man and are living lonely, miserable, manless lives. So men can force women to fib up. Masculists expect women to pull their financial weight equally with men, and not to judge men by their ability to provide money and wealth to women, which might have made sense a century ago when traditional gender roles were pretty much a necessity, but are no longer needed today. But women evolved to look upon men as providers for women. It's built into their DNA to want men who are taller, bigger, stronger, fiercer, smarter than they are, since such men gave women and their babies a greater chance of survival. To get a sense of how strong this female instinct is, look at the female preference to have taller men as sexual partners. It's very strong. There are e-dating companies that allow women to choose the lowest height limit of their potential male partners, so that men who are shorter than this height are not selected. Millions of young women today are still fluffies, and hence are the enemy of the Masculists. This raises a real question alluded to above, that is, what will happen when the irresistible force of Masculist ideas, that is, the Masculist expectation that women be FIPPs and not fluffy style, expect to parasite off the money and labour of a man for decades of his life, a war issue for Masculists, close brackets, clashes with the immovable, evolved female instinct to prefer men who are good providers, question mark. This raises a deeper question contained in the second half of the title of this flyer, that is, can the force of Masculist ideology overpower the force of evolved female instinct to judge men by their ability to provide resources to them and their babies? Question mark. Typically, most people think there's no point fighting one's biology, one's instincts, since they will always win out. You may have heard the expression, quote, "You can't fight your biology," exclamation mark. Personally, I question this. The human brain is very adaptable, adjusting to circumstances, to new environments. So for women, if that new environment is the very powerful moral pressure that masculisted men place on women to be FIPPs, then women will just have to adapt and become FIPPs or rot on the shelf, dying out. Women may not be happy with being FIPPs being forced to share equally with men the burdens of earning the living. But masculisted men will give women no choice. They will tell women, fip up or die. That is, become fips or rot on the shelf, manless and lonely, childless and miserable. So I suspect from now on, given the rise of masculist priorities, women will be forced to be fips. They will be spat at by masculisted men if they express their instinctive desires to live off the money and labour of a man. This attitude of fluffy women is hated by masculists due to its man's slavery. Since a fluffy can only be a fluffy if she can get her financial claws into some gullible, ignorant, that is, of masculist ideas, man-slaveable man, as most men become infected by the masculist virus. The supply of such men will totally dry up, thus forcing fluffy women to either fip up or rot on the shelf, effectively exterminating them, which is a major political goal of the masculists, who see man-slavery as literally 1,000 times greater problem than was Negro slavery, given the numbers. There were several million Negro slaves in the US slave era, and there are several billion man slaves today. The massive immorality of Negro slavery was the root cause of the US Civil War. Analogously, masculists are at war against fluffies and aim to wipe them out. Women, who in their hearts would love to be fluffies to satisfy their evolved instincts to live off the money and labour of a man, will have no choice. Men have the power to force women to fip up, to reject their fluffy values in practice, in everyday life, or be seen by men, masculisted men, as man-slaving, divorce-raping vermin, hated, spat at, utterly rejected both socially and sexually. So it looks as though, from now on, women are going to feel rather thwarted by the masculist denial of women's evolved instinct to judge men by men's ability to provide wealth. So women are not going to be happy. Women won't have the luxury to express this unhappiness to men through fear of being rejected by men, masculisted men, who will not tolerate a whining, nagging bitch and will dump her if she can't accept being a fip, a financially responsible adult who expects to pull her financial weight and not, fluffy style, wishes in her heart to leech off the wealth and labour of a man for decades of his life. In short, the situation now is increasingly so that men do not tolerate the deep wishes, the evolved instinct of women to be taken care of financially by a man. Women will fip up, or they will be effectively exterminated by men by being totally ignored by men, not even pumped and dumped. In short, masculists are abolitionists. Masculists have a hatred of fluffies, whom are seen as manslavers and divorce rapists who deserve to die. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Brackets. Click on the Masculist tab for 760 plus Masculist essays and their videos. Google the terms London Real and Hugo de Garis to see videos on masculism at AI will kill 1 billion people. Do we create our exterminators? Professor Hugo de Garis. London Real. Brackets. See the last half hour of this 2-hour interview for the Masculist segment, as well as Countdown to Extinction, How AI Will Exterminate Mankind, again for the last 40 minutes on masculism. These flyers are available in text and video formats on Minds, BitChute, Odyssey, MGTOW.tv, X and YouTube. I have over 1,000 Masculist videos in 16 playlists on YouTube that can be accessed by searching for the channel name De Garis Masculist Videos. That's all one word. All 1,000 of my Masculist videos in one long list in most recent first time order can also be found on X by searching the channel name De Garis Masculist Videos. That's 4 words. Now ad-libbing, I'm still experimenting with videoing in 4K. I suspect the 4K camera I have at the moment is not optimum, so in a few days I'll get a better one, hopefully. And still playing around with sound quality and so forth. I'm still in the teething stages with this new 4K camera system. So, ciao.